أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الذي خلق الخلائق والأخلاق والأرزاق والأفعال. خلقنا جل وعلا ورزقنا منذ نعومة أظفارنا إلى يومنا هذا، وضعنا في هذه الدنيا وما تركنا هملا، بل أرسل إلينا نبينا المصطفى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم الذي أدى الأمانة وبلغ الرسالة ونصح الأمة، وتركها على محجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك. عباد الله، أوصي نفسي وإياكم بتقوى الله عز وجل، وكونوا بشرعه متمسكين، ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون، كما ثبت في القرآن الحكيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. عباد الله، لقد أكرمنا الله سبحانه وتعالى بدين شامل وكامل، وجاءت هذه الشريعة تبيانا لكل شيء وتفصيلا لكل الأحكام والقضايا. يقول ربنا في محكم تنزيله: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وتمت كلمة ربك صدقا وعدلا لا مبدل لكلماته وهو السميع العليم. سورة الأنعام. أيها المستمعون الكرام، يا قوم، الظاهر أننا نتمتع بالعقيدة الصحيحة التي بها نرغب في إرضاء الله تعالى، إلا أن اليوم بهذه العقيدة السليمة الصحيحة والرغب الوجيه وجد الاستغلال والتلاعب بالدين، حيث أن الإنسان قد يستدل بما في الدين لأغراضه الخاصة التي لا تصح أصلاً. فكيف يتم ذلك مع قول الله تعالى في محكم تنزيله: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ومن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا أو كذب بآياته إنه لا يفلح الظالمون. سورة الأنعام. والافتراء على الله أو الافتراء على الله الكذب هو أن يدعي الإنسان شيئا وينسبه إلى الله تعالى والله ما قاله أو ما قصده. وثبت عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في نفس القضية عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: من كذب علي متعمدا فليتبوأ مقعده من النار. أخرجه مسلم. قال الإمام النووي أن الكذب هو الإخبار عن الشيء على خلاف ما هو، عمدا كان أو سهوا. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May His peace and blessings be showered upon His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the one who fought tooth and nail for Islam to get to every corner of the world. I bear full witness that none is worthy being worshipped but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If anyone dares to worship anything else that isn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we consider that the highest level of oppression. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bestow onto his beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam his full blessings and mercy, and whoever is to follow his footsteps till the day of judgment. Allahumma ameen. This evening, inshallah, I wanted us to discuss about something vital, crucial, very sensitive when it comes to our belief as Muslims. We all know that what we share in common as Muslims is our will to totally submit to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every Muslim yearns to please their Creator. Whatever they do, they are in line with pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they also long to please and follow the teachings of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi ala dhalik. We thank Allah that alhamdulillah we have that. However, today we now witness that because of the fact that we are ready to do what Allah wants, we are ready to do what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam guided us to do, probably there are some people that are using Islam, the traditions of the Prophet, the authentic verses from the Holy Quran, just to please their own personal interests in the image of Islam. And that alone, it gets to a point that when I get to you as a preacher, I know you want to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I know you want to please Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That alone triggers something psychologically. I need to tap into that belief of yours to manipulate your behavior, to manipulate your intellect, to also manipulate the way you reason. And that alone brings out the fact that we are going to be forced to interpret authentic traditions from the Prophet, to interpret innocent verses just to suit our meanings, to suit your interests. Is it there or not? Do you know how many people are manipulated in that angle? Do you know how many people are using Islam, reciting verses, giving out traditions, without even giving it a thought to check out what was the logics behind this verse and what are the logics behind a particular tradition? It's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to keep Islam as innocent and pure as it is. It is very well known that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in very many verses in the Holy Quran made it a point to let us know that Islam is just complete. It's a complete way of life. It doesn't need editing. Editing in a way of adding in anything, or maybe in a way of putting in and fixing in a meaning that is too personal on a personal level, yet Quran is the guidance for humanity, is guidance for Muslims, not for a person as you. And if at all you're a Muslim, and you get this awareness, it basically means that you're not going to take this Islam for granted. Very many victims of religious manipulation are there. Just because someone doesn't know a lot about Islam, and maybe someone, a friend of his or hers, that has something to know about Islam, will use that fact to manipulate the way they reason, to manipulate the way they think. An example, clarify my point. We all know that Islam encourages us to give in charity. And it is very well encouraged for a Muslim to consider giving in charity with the upper hand. But the same Islam in the same place also encouraged you to give in charity reasonably. You don't exhaust and give in whatever you're having. It's the same Islam. So if at all I tune in the religious manipulation, I'm going to stand here and I will be like, do you really think Allah deserves 10,000? That statement alone is triggering you to exploit you to give in even whatever you don't have, just to meet my interest, because I need you to give in more. So in that line, Islam is like, no, you don't take that route, but you really have to explain and keep the moderate position. And what's the moderate position? Islam encourages us to give in charity with the upper hand, but reasonably at the same time. You don't use that gap to exploit whoever doesn't know that. I would like to put to your attention that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam made it a point in an authentic tradition. When he was like, man kadhaba alayya muta'ammidan, if anyone ever says anything, ever translates anything, ever squeezes out any meaning, and yet it doesn't even qualify to get to the reason as to why Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam ever said whatever they said, فَلْيَتَبَوَّأْ مَقْعَدَهُ مِنَ النَّارِ. The only reward is, please prepare a seat on the last day of judgment. You're going to be punished. Because if you dare try to say that Prophet said, we expect you to say as he said. If you're like Prophet meant, we also expect you to mean what the Prophet meant. And that's why Al-Imam al-Nawawi was like, the sense of lying in line with the Prophet is literally saying out something. Maybe you're using the same very phrases, the same very statements, but you're translating something that is too personal to your own benefit. Yet Islam is guidance to humanity. You know what you're doing? Someone is busy going to hate Islam, trying to say that Prophet is a liar, courtesy of you and courtesy of your interpretation. Someone will be like, Islam is just too rigid, just because of the way you're interpreting stuff, and maybe because of the way you've put it out to them. And then the Islamic stand is like, of course, we are not supposed to be participating in this kind of manipulation. There are two, the so-called concepts that people who make it a point to manipulate others religiously, they feed on three issues. Scholars were like, the first concept they feed on is the fear. They make it a point to let you know, if at all you don't do as they're telling you, even with other options, the only option is hell and paradise. So if at all you don't know anything about Islam, you'll just feel too fixed. You'll be like, if I'm not doing as they're telling me, yet of course all they are doing is delivering what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and what Allah told them to deliver. But they will make you feel like it's the greatest sin of the highest level if at all you don't do as they are saying. That's the first concept. The second concept, obligation. They won't even give you a variety. Giving in charity with the upper hand is an option, but also reasonably is also another option. There is that moderate position. But of course, I will come here because I need something from you. I will only take one position. I will be like, you really have to give in a lot. Allah has done great for you. The point is just too authentic, but the intention is not pure. So that sense of obligation will also mature into you as a result of this kind of manipulation. And lastly is the guilt conscious. You will be believed, you will be forced to believe that if at all you don't do as they're telling you, or maybe as I'm telling you, if at all I happen to be a manipulator, I will even get to a point of attaching whatever bad story is happening in your life to the fact that you never followed my guidance. Has it ever happened? Someone telling you something Islamic, and when you get an accident, immediately they tell you out, and they're like, the reason as to why Allah has predetermined for you this accident, you never followed my guidance. Since when? These are two scenarios that you're trying to put together just to prove a point with innocent and maybe with selfish interests. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always guide us to the best. The point in today's sermon is, please, if you're a victim of religious manipulation, get to know that Islam is too pure. It doesn't even at a point, encourage anyone to use religion to manipulate them. Just because you have a wife that doesn't understand deen, not very many verses within her head, and then you're literally saying, Al-rijalu qawwamuna ala nisa, men are having this piece of advantage over the ladies, as you're violating, caning them, mistreating them, and you're reciting a verse for God's sake. That's not Islam. And if you find this lady under this kind of husband, they are going to tarnish the image of Islam, trying to think that Islam is busy encouraging them to be beaten and punished. If you find a husband who doesn't understand anything about this religion, and maybe the wife understands something about religion, she will also use that gap to manipulate the husband. Maybe by telling them that you're not worth a man because you're not providing to me, yet the fact stands, this husband is poor and he can't even afford at that moment. So this innocent mind of this man will be like, Islam is being unfair. But why? Because someone is busy just twisting something to fit their own personal interests. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to the best. I believe if at all we adopt to that, we are going to understand the true meaning when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was like, indeed, al-yawma akmaltu lakum deenakum. This deen is just a complete way of life. Everything is well packaged, but delivering it to the rest is also another factor worth considering. Abebitiibwa abampuliriza, amatenda amajjuvu ga Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tumusinza kubanga yasaanidde okubanga asinzibwa. Tusaba Allah abeerenga asiima nabbi waffe Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam olw'omulimu ogw'ettendo gwe yakola okulaba nga eddiini eno etutuukako. Tusaba Allah amusiime naffe abamugoberera okutuusa olunaku olw'enkomerero. Allahumma amin. Nkakasa oba oli musiraamu okimanyi nga bwe nkimanyi nti ffenna ekitugatta gwe mukwano gwaffe ne aqiida ennywevu gye tulina n'obwagazi buli omu bw'alina okukola Allah kyamulagidde n'okukola nabbi kyamulagidde. Kati olw'okuba ffenna twagala okululunkana ennyo okusiimisa Allah waffe nnyini tutonda, ekirungi ennyo era kyekifuula omuntu omusiraamu. Naye ate tutandise okulaba ku nnaku ng'abantu bakozesa eddiini yennyini eno okuyisaawo ebigendererwa ebyabwe okuva ku bigendererwa lwaki Allah yayogera bwe yayogera, oba lwaki nabbi yayogera bye yayogera. Omungereza kyayita religious manipulation, nti nze ngaali wano mu maaso nkyasobola okukozesa obukugu bwange n'okusoma kwe nasoma eddiini eno, bw'oba tonneegenderezza nentandika okuba nga nzannyira ku ntegeerayo, nentandika okuba nga nkuleetera okukola ekintu, so olw'okuba oyagala kusiimisa Allah, wabula olw'okuba oyagala kusiimisa nze okusinziira ku ngeri gye nkikutaddemu. Kati ekintu ekyo kiba kyakabenje nnyo omuntu bw'atandika okutambuliza obusiraamu bwe ku bigambo oba ku bantu n'atafaayo na buyiga. Bwe tutandika okukebera ku Kulaani ey'ekitiibwa, ojja kulaba nga Allah alinga eyabitegeera n'atukakasiza ddala nti eddiini eno yaggwaayo, tewaliiwo yeetaaga jjongera mu kigambo kyonna, ne Kulaani eyo tosobola jjongera mu kigambo. Kati ekyo bwe kiba nga kyaggwa dda, Allah nga yatumatiza n'ebigambo ebyo, tukakasa bukakasa nti eddiini yaffe yajjula. Naye ttabbu gye tulina olwaleero ti omuntu akyasobola okukozesa ebigambo bya nabbi, omuntu akyasobola okukozesa aya ya Allah nga mbutuufu agisomye nga bw'eri mu Kulaani, naye olw'okuba tomanyi Luwarabu najja ajambaza amakulu nga mbutuufu ate onaawakanirawa. Kati omaliriza naawe okkiriza kuba tolina kyakkola. Ekyokulabirako ekyangu, eddiini yaffe eno ey'obusiraamu etukubiriza okuwaayo ennyo mu kkubo lya Allah, okusaddaaka, okwanguyiriza ennyo okuwaayo mu bungi oba mu butono. Naye ate eddiini yennyini ey'obusiraamu neekuyigiriza nti woba olina omutwalo aye toguwaayo gwonna, waayo ko 50,000, waayo ko 2,000, 3,000, osigazeemu naawe akasanvu k'ogenda okukoleza emigaso gyo. Naye nkyasobola okuyimirira mu maaso go wano eno ne nkubuuza ekibuuzo, musajja gw'omusiraamu ku myaka gy'omaze mu musiraamu okakasa Allah asaana 3,000. laba nno gye nkutwala. Ogenda okunoonya akakwata akaliwo 3,000 ne Allah nga tokalabawo, naye ng'ate kyoyagadde okuwaayo kuba bwe busobozi bwo. Ne nkutyuninga nno ne nkugamba nti Allah ku byakukoledde byonna asaana 3,000. Yongerako naawe omutwalo. Ne nsomayo aya ng'emu awo eraga nti Allah ayagala oweeyo, ne hadiisi emu yokka eba ekumala kuba tojja kumpakanya, gwe ng'ojjayo omutwalo ng'ompa ng'ogenda osula enjala. Kye twagala okwogerako olwaleero, ate ng'obusiraamu bwakyogerako. Nabbi waffe Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam yatugamba mu bigambo bye bituufu. Abu Huraira yatutegeeza, man kadhaba alayya mutaammidan, omuntu weka mutanda nannimbisa nga mbutuufu agenderedde. Okulimbirira okwo okwa nabbi tekitegeeza kumuteekako bigambo by'atayogera kyokka, wabula kitegeeza n'okutegeeza okutuusa amakulu mu bukendeevu bwago nga nabbi si kye yayagala. Mutaammidan, ng'ogenderedde kubanga olina kyoyagala okuyisaawo. Falyatabawa maqadahu minan nar, omuntu ng'oyo butuufu ategeka ekifo kye mu muliro, kubanga totukoze bulungi. Tonaba kukitegeera nti bw'onaatwala ruutu eyo ogenda tuvumaganya ffenna. Nze nkakasa nga naye bw'okakasa, waliwo abantu abataagala busiraamu buno nga tolina ky'omugamba olw'enneeyisa omusiraamu gye yamuyisaamu nga bw'amusomera aya. Naye nga aya kyewagira ekyo. Tetulinayo basajja bakuba bakyala baabe mwiggo n'amusomera aya nti arrijalu qawwamuna ala nnisaa, nti abasajja Allah yabasukkulumyako ku bakyala. Kati ye ng'obusukkulumyu bwe buli mumpi na miggo ye kyalaba. Kati bambi olw'okuba omukyala ono alina omukwano ne Allah we, asirikawo busirisi kuba tajja kuwakanya Allah nti eddiini aba agifulumye. N'atwala ekintu nti obusiraamu abasajja batukuba kubanga Allah abalagidde. Kiki otukolera musajja gwe? Yo a religious manipulator. Oli mubi nnyo bw'obanga bw'otyo bw'okola ebintu byo. Ate bw'obeera mukyala nga naawe kyekimu olina ku ddiini gy'omanyi naye nga baawo talina kyamanyi. Okitegedde mwavu talina ssente, n'otandika omusomera hadiisi nga nabbi akutegeeza nti omusajja atasobola yimirizaawo maka ge aba afuuse ssekibotte. Naye ng'omusajja gwe baali boogerako ye musajja alina obusobozi nga ssente ozirabako. Naye kati omusajja mwavu n'osoma hadiisi ya nabbi ng'olinga agamba nti nabbi yali kwonu bbaawo gwayogerako, n'oteekawo nno n'erinnya lye nga tugamba nti nedda. Ffenna obusiraamu tuteekeddwa okubulekera ekitiibwa kyabwo. Njagala okubakakasa nti ebintu bisatu bye bikyasinza okwonoona embeera eyo. Ekisookera ddala kwe kutya, olw'okuba otya Allah wo. Nze kimmala ng'omuwali mu kukozesa tune eyo nenkuseetinga nno bulungi n'okola kyenjagala nga nkozesa linnya lya Allah nti Allah kyayagala aye n'okikola mbutamanya naye nga nkuyiikiriza. Ngera bwe nsobola okukuteekako okulowooza nti it's an obligation, ye option yokka gy'olina nti bw'otakikola Allah tagenda kukusanyukira. Naye nga nze ne Allah twasisinkana ddi okumpa assurance eyo nti bw'atakola nga bw'ogambye Hussein sigenda muwajjana. Naye abantu babyogera wano n'akasemberayo ddala kwe kuleetera okuwulira nga gukusingira ddala teweetaaga na kutuula mu bantu bw'obanga tokoze nga bwakulagidde. Yensonga lwaki edduuka lyo liyinza n'okujja n'ogenda n'omugamba nti naye nga wampadde ku magezi weegati. Nagamba nti obuzibu bwe nakugamba bwebwo, nakugamba oyongereko kugaba Allah oleete wano saddaaka omungi naye wagaana. Kati Allah akikozeeko n'akwokyera edduuka naye nga tebikwatagana. Kiri kyabaddewo Allah yageze ne kino nga bwe kyabaddewo. Tusaba Allah abeere nga atuwonya embeera eyo. Tusaba Allah abeere nga buli musiraamu yenna akimanya nti obusiraamu si basiraamu. Obusiraamu busigaza ekitiibwa kyabwo, tebuyiikiriza muntu yenna, bwetengeredde wabula ttabbu eri kufa ababutegeera. Twala obuvunaanyizibwa okuyiga n'okumanya busiraamu bwo bugamba ki, obutegeere obutuufu bw'okubutegeera. Aqulu qawli hadha wastaghfirullaha li wa lakum wa lisaa'iril muslimina min kulli dhanbin fastaghfiruhu innahu huwa at-tawwabur rahim. المحمود هو الله والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وبعد. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, I would like to conclude today's sermon with two issues. Issue number one, please, it's not only applied within the religion, but it is also applied in other fields. If you're a teacher, never at one point manipulate your profession by manipulating your students. How many teachers are abusing their learners sexually because of what they are as teachers? If you're an employer, don't manipulate the minds of your employees reading Quranic verses. An example, maybe you're not paying them for months, and all you're reciting are verses of sabr. And if at all they are impatient to that level, you start now trying to qualify them not being practicing Muslims. But for God's sake, it's 8 months not paying them. Your tradition and your teaching Islamically is consider paying your worker before even their sweat dries. That's the guidance of Islam. You know how moderate Islam is? But how many employers are manipulating their workers, hiding with the image of Islam? How many workers are manipulating their employers with the image of Islam? Please, put the discipline in that too. Doctors, just because I don't have knowledge with medics or maybe medication, it's not reason enough to manipulate my mind. Be just. Apply that ethic in your profession. Mechanics, don't manipulate your clients. It's Islamic to respect your profession. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us that guidance. And lastly, please make sure you invest in getting right people to guide you. Why don't you have your Islamic law consultant? Yes, there are very many sheikhs. Who is your personal sheikh that guides you just in case? Who is your doctor? If you get very many information about treating people, who do you consult in that field? Do you have any? You've spent 40 years eating and drinking. Who is your dietitian? Where do you consult that from? And the Islamic guidance is get the right people to guide you. With that, you will get on the right track always. Abebitiibwa mmaliriza, ngamba kubiriza, tugezeeko nnyo okulaba nga kye twogeddeko olwaleero kibadde mu layini ya ddiini, naye ate tukiteekeko naye walala. Bw'obeera musomesa, totuswaza ate naawe tutandika kwagala baana bw'osomesa. Nga bw'obalimbiikiriza twe batakwagala, makisi tebalina, oswaza nnyo musomesa gwe, koppa ku njigiriza eno ogiteeke mu nkola. Bw'obeera musawo, kye kimu. Olw'okuba sirina kye mmanyi mu busawo ekyo, toŋŋamba nti eddagala lya mitwalo 10 nga lya gumu. Oli muyaaye nnyo, obusiraamu nga tugamba, ŋŋamba amazima. Don't manipulate your profession. Si we kigwanidde, kubanga okifunamu ezzambi. Bw'obeera makanika, kale twakkaanya nti bamakanika batera okulimba, naye yawukanamuko. Yogera amazima. Tozannyira ku bwongo bw'abantu bw'okanikira emmotoka oba eppiki oba eggaali nga tugamba nti ebintu bino ogenda bitegeera bulungi. Njagala okumaliriza ne guidance emu. Bambi buli omu afeeyo ofune omuntu abantu bojjako okuwabulibwa okusaanidde. Naawe okimanyi tewasoma nnyo ddiini, naye ate toyinaayo mu kaseera ke kamu muntu ayinza kuwabula mu bya ddiini gw'asanze yawabula. Okimanyi toli musawo, naye gwe buli w'osanze ng'omuntu awa amagezi g'okumira eddagala ng'otwala. Funa omuwalimu abeere nga akugaidinga, funa omusawo abeere nga akugaidinga, bw'ogenda okuwona katemba ng'oyo yenna gwe twogeddeko. Tusaba Allah abeere nga atuwa guidance ng'eyo. I request Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to free us from religion or maybe religious manipulation. The cardinal objective of this sermon today is awareness, just to be sure that the image of Islam is not tarnished by just personal interests of whoever is giving you something about Islam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us that understanding. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us that discipline so that we put it in our professions. We put it in our day-to-day life. We put it in our interpersonal relationships. I believe we do that, Islam is going to keep its respect, and we are going to get to the point of respecting Islam for what it is. An official apology to whoever is manipulated religiously. Maybe I'm not the speaker of all Muslims in the world, but please, if you're a victim of religious manipulation, it's only one point. That's not Islam. Islam is a pure religion full of guidance. Please get to a point of maturity to understand that knowing Islam is something and also interpreting it is something else, and delivering it is something more broader than that. We are sorry to anyone who is a victim of religious manipulation. Get to know that you dealt with a person who played you, but it wasn't the Prophet. Get to know that you dealt with a human being, but it wasn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's intention. Because Islam still takes that innocent stand, that pure stand, that it's free from all those editings. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us that understanding. Buli yali ali azamanyiziddwa ng'oli mu bufumbo bbaawe akukuba, bw'asoma aya ng'oli mu bufumbo naye ng'omukyala akulya azaamaanya, naye bw'asoma aya bambi tukwegayiridde tusonyiwe nno. Obusiraamu si bwe bugamba. Kitegeere nti obusiraamu tebulagira bwe butyo, buyina enjigiriza. Naye olw'okuba muyina ettabbu gye muyiseemu n'omuntu wo, alina okuba nga asikazza wuwe. Ekyo kikulu nnyo omusiraamu okuba nga akimanya. Tusaba Allah abeere nga atuwa that understanding. Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka hamidun majid. Wa barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim fil alamin innaka hamidun majid. وارض اللهم عن الأربعة الخلفاء منهم أبو بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الشرك والمشركين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا زدنا علما وارزقنا فهما. ربنا زدنا علما وارزقنا فهما برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. يا مقلب القلوب والأبصار ثبت قلوبنا على دينك وعلى طاعتك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا.